The honorary degree will now be conferred. I am pleased to welcome Dr. Colleen Collins to present the honorary degree candidate, Mr. George Cohon. Dr. Collins is an Associate Professor of Marketing in the Beatty School of Business and the Associate Dean for the Siegel Graduate Program.
Mr. Chancellor, doing business by doing right. George Cohon exemplifies the best of socially responsible business leadership. His career demonstrates that doing the right thing for customers and their community is not only compatible with business success, but a driver of that success. His career is a case study in how bold, creative, and difficult business decisions can make a positive difference in society and contribute to corporate profitability. As a corporate philanthropist, Mr. Cohon is well known for his leadership in founding the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Canada and Russia, supporting families of children who require hospitalization. Thousands of families across BC and Canada have benefited from the efforts of this organization. His early recognition of the need for corporate support for Rick Hanson's Man in Motion tour rescued the tour on its Canadian homecoming and led the way for other organizations to compete, ultimately raising millions of dollars for spinal cord research. Mr. Cohon's engagement with the Rick Hanson Foundation continues today, 25 years later. A fearless pioneer and determined global entrepreneur, Mr. Cohon opened the first McDonald's franchise in Canada and later became the chairman, CEO, and president. Seeing another massive but very daunting opportunity, Mr. Cohon coined the term hamburger diplomacy to describe the 14 years it took to launch McDonald's in Russia. Navigating a difficult and ever-changing political landscape, Mr. Cohon's decision to enter the Soviet market at a time when the US president described the Soviet Union as the evil empire was a bold contribution to perestroika. When the political barriers finally came down, he faced a barrage of major business issues that he addressed by making a series of investments demonstrating their commitment to the local Russian community. For example, the massive local supply chain investments required to get the right potatoes for the fries, the right pickles for the cucumbers, and the right processing to meet McDonald's global product standards ultimately led to improvements in agriculture for independent farmers in Russia far beyond meeting the needs of just McDonald's. George Cohon is a role model for entrepreneurs, managers, and business leaders who believe that success in business is inextricably linked to service to the community in which they operate. A visionary business strategist, marketing legend, negotiator, international diplomat, entrepreneur, leader, community builder, humanitarian, he's also a nice guy with a great sense of humor.
I hope so.
Among other awards, he has received the highest public awards from 3 continents. He is an officer of the Order of Canada. He was awarded Russia's Order of Friendship, Israel's Prime Minister's Medal. He has received the Woodrow Wilson Award for Corporate Citizenship, an honorary doctorate from University of Haifa, and he is a member of the Canadian Business Hall of Fame, as well as the recipient of countless other distinctions. We are honored that Mr. Cohon is here to join us today. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Senate of this university, I ask that you now confer upon George Cohon the degree Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Thank you. That's great.
George Cohon, by virtue of the authority vested in me and in the Senate of this university, I hereby admit you to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Dr. Cohon will be hooded by Dr. Bill Crane, Acting Vice President, Academics, and Dr. Kate Ross, Registrar.
Okay. Nice. Good turn and change.
Congratulations. My friend, congratulations.
And the President and myself, we're going to escort you over to this table to sign.
It is with pleasure that I now call on Dr. George Cohon for his convocation address.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Chancellor, Mr. President, honored members of the faculty, parents, friends, but most of all, graduates. You know, when you hear something like that, I think it's very important to not take yourself too seriously. You accomplish things in your life with the help of a lot of other people. And the founder of McDonald's, Ray Kroc, had a saying that I'm very fond of. And the saying is, none of us is as good as all of us. So I'm very honored to accept this award. I'm humbled, and it's just nice to be in this beautiful facility. Now, Vancouver has done really well of late. You could nearly call it a trilogy. The first one would be the Olympics, which was wonderful. The next is going to be the Grey Cup that is going to be here later this year. And our younger son is the commissioner of the Grey Cup, so I'm very proud of that. But the last one is going to be when the Canucks win. Stand up, everyone stand up. Come on, stand up, on your feet. On your feet. Let's say, go Canucks, go. Can we do it? Go Canucks, go. Go Canucks, go. Go Canucks, go. You know, there's another trilogy you're going to find out when you get in the business world, and it's called the Trilogy of Terror. And that's legal, tax, and accounting. You'll figure that out after a while. Now, I'm going to talk about just three things. Most people don't remember who gave the speech at your graduation. I don't remember from Drake University. I don't remember from Northwestern Law School. I took a poll of the top academics at this university, and one or two did remember. So I'll be in good company because most of you will not remember what I'm going to be talking about. I'm going to talk about three things. The first is going to be the age that we live in, the new age that's so different from when someone like me graduated. You know, I don't have a Facebook account. I don't have a Twitter account. I got my BlackBerry as a gift from Jim Basile. Jim's a pal of mine. He's the founder of BlackBerry. And he gave me the bulb first and then the torch. And you nearly get addicted to the thing. You know, you get into it and oh my God, I mean, if I was to say who doesn't have one of these things, no hands would go up. Last weekend, Sue and I were at a country house, and we had changed from Rogers to Bell, and for some reason my BlackBerry didn't work on the Bell system. I thought I'd go epileptic. I wanted to get a Wi-Fi, whatever that is. I was going to buy stuff and plug it in. So my point is this: if for some reason your BlackBerry didn't work, if for some reason the power went out, if for some reason the battery didn't charge, you know, don't worry about it. You've still got a brain. You're going to use your brain and you're going to have fun with it. And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you a cute story. I went to Northwestern, where Susie and I, my wife of 50 years, if you can believe, met. And I'm on the board of trustees of the university, a lifetime trustee. And so on my BlackBerry one day, I get a message that says, they're in a bowl game. We want to sell the tickets out and we're not doing too well. Will all of you trustees buy some tickets? And so I said to Sue, the tickets are $100 each. Why don't we buy 7 tickets? And so Sue gets on her thing and she pushes some buttons, and the next day, the director of athletics of the university calls me, said, Mr. Cohon, I don't know how to thank you enough for your generosity. And I thought, my God, why would the athletic director, who's in a bowl game, why would he be calling me? What did I do? He said, he bought 70 tickets. I said, 70 tickets? That's, oh, I'm honored that we spent $7,000. And Susie didn't go shopping for a while after that. Now, another thing I want to talk about that I feel strongly about is that you've got to, in your life, have loyalty. And I'm talking loyalty to your friends. I'm talking loyalty in your business. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that when I graduated, you got a job. I have a law degree. I didn't like the practice of law, so I got out of it, and I started selling hamburgers. Okay, and I've been doing that for 40 years. Most of you won't stay in the same job for that period of time. You might change jobs in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years. And so what I'm saying is always be loyal. And I'll tell you 2 stories about loyalty that I think you'll find of interest. It took me 14 years to get McDonald's into the Soviet Union. 14 years. At the end of the 12th year, we had a contract that was 80 pages long. And in the contract, it said, at page 72 or something, we have to sell Pepsi-Cola, not Coca-Cola. And I said, nothing doing. You know, we made a handshake deal with Coke years ago. We honor our commitments. My son works for Coca-Cola. And they said, nope, that's what it's going to be. And we went 3 days on that one issue that was holding up the signing of something I'd worked on for 12 years. And I called the Coca-Cola people in Atlanta, Georgia, and I said, what should I do? They said, George, for God's sake, sign it. You worked so hard on this. Don't give up on this opportunity for McDonald's to be the first company to get into the former Soviet Union, the first breakthrough, the doves of perestroika, as we were called. I said, no, I'm going to wait another day. And I went to the deputy mayor of Moscow, who I knew pretty well, and he said, well, what is this loyalty thing? I don't quite understand it. I mean, picture communism and the state owns everything. They own everything that there is, so who are you loyal to? It's not a supplier. I said, well, you have a dacha, country house, and you have an older man that looks after it. If someone were to try to go to that man and hurt him, what would you do? Well, I'd never allow it to happen. He's a friend. I said, well, business people can be friends. We're friends with Coca-Cola. So on the 4th day, they decided, you know, you're absolutely right. They put Coke in and took Pepsi out. That's one story of loyalty. Another one that I like is I was going to buy a Jaguar car. And I had the color picked out. It was a Jaguar convertible. It was a beautiful car. And I'm just about ready to sign the contract. And the guy says, would you like a soft drink? I said, I'd like a Diet Coca-Cola. He said, all we have here is Pepsi. And I took my pen and I put it back in my pocket and I said, I can't buy the car. He says, what do you mean you can't buy the car? I said, well, I don't want to open the door to this car every day and think about Pepsi-Cola. Well, I'll go across the street and buy a Coke. And I said, not good enough. Do you have a contract? Yeah, we don't. They just bring a machine in. Well, could you call the head of Pepsi? And could you have him take the machine out, and I'll call the head of Coke, and he'll put the machine in the next day? He said, well, you won't be able to get a machine that quickly. And I called Bill Casey, head of Coca-Cola. Next day, Pepsi machine out, Coca-Cola machine in, okay? And to me, that's loyalty. Those are important things. And when I talk to you about your use of the internet and your texting and how you do it all the time, when's the last time you wrote a personal letter to someone? When's the last time you wrote, your grandmother? When's the last time you wrote your parents? When's the last time you picked up a pen in your hand and said thank you to somebody? Just do it. It's a good idea. Trust me, it won't hurt at all. It really won't hurt. All right, so I talked a bit about loyalty, and the third thing I want to talk about is charity. You can go out and do all sorts of things in this world, but I want you to donate some time and pick the charity of your choice and make a difference. Make a difference. I've been involved in Ronald McDonald houses all across this country. We just had a day called McHappy Day where we raised millions of dollars so we can build more rooms for parents of kids that are in trouble. And believe me, when you meet a child who's 8 years old who's waiting for a heart transplant, or when you meet a 9-year-old boy who's been in that house with his parents for 9 months because he's had 3 operations for brain surgery, it's not too important whether it rains on a given day. It's not too important about a lot of things. So when you get involved in charity, in the charity of your choice, you'll be making a difference in the world. And do it. Volunteer your time. Susie and I, my wife, we have 2 golden retriever dogs. And we train them as therapy dogs. And we take them into hospitals, and we treat patients. And I'll tell you one story that's so interesting. I'm at a palliative care floor where people are very sick, basically dying. And I go room to room with Tilly, the dog. And I get to one room, and the door is closed. And I knock on the door, and I said, I'm here with Tilly, my therapy dog. Can we come and visit you? And the woman says, I'm not dressed to see you. Send in the dog. I let the dog off the leash. The dog walks into the room. 10 minutes later, the woman says, you can go home now. Tilly's my new roommate. And I say, well, I can't go home because my wife won't let me in the house if I don't come back with the dog. And the woman says, learn to live in the streets. It might be good for you. Now, this started a relationship between a woman who was in her 50s, was an academic from Holland, who ended up dying about 2 months later. And the relationship between her and the animal was, as the doctor who was treating her said, more meaningful than what I can do for her. So get involved in charity. Do things that will make a difference in life. You can always get out. Pick a charity and go and make a difference. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is what I call roots and wings. And here's roots and wings. But before I get into it, let me say this. You're going out in the workforce. You don't know what life's going to bring. It's certainly not about just making money. It's about doing what you want to do and accomplishing it. And don't be timid, and don't be afraid, and don't be afraid of failure. If you try something that doesn't work, be persistent, be determined, and hang in there. And for God's sakes, if you're in a job after you've given it your very best shot and it doesn't work, don't get trapped. I didn't like to practice the law. I didn't like keeping time records. I didn't like dealing with certain clients, and so I got out and did something else. I shudder to think about what it would be like if I practiced law all these years. So as you go out, my advice to you would be, get into something you like, have some fun, and now this is more to the parents than it is to the graduates. There's a concept called roots and wings. And roots and wings means this. You give your children certain basic values. You teach them right from wrong. You teach them what you think they should learn and what they should know. You teach them the moral fiber of their life. That's their roots. Now, once you've given them the roots, they're going to take their wings, and they're going to soar. And you may not necessarily like what they're going to do, but that's, you've done your job, and now I want all of you to soar. Go out after this graduation, and parents, let them do the soaring. That's very, very important. Now, I'll close on this. I'm married 50 years. My wife, Susan, is here. I want Susan to stand up. Honey, stand up. Now, let's give her a standing ovation, okay? I want to give her a standing ovation. She put up with me for 50 years, so let's get up and give her a round of applause. Come on. Thanks. Again, I'm deeply honored and I'm deeply humbled, and I thank you very much for the opportunity of being with you today. Godspeed, good luck.
Thank you, Dr. Cohon.